All right, let's dive right in. Today, we are unpacking a seriously ambitious and, yeah, kind of mind-bending framework. Crippin's theory and the Atlas Codex. And we're not just talking about balance in some metaphorical sense. Nope. This theory proposes that balance is a real, fundamental, and even measurable constant of the universe, a force that shapes literally everything, from the way galaxies spin to the way we think. So, that brings us to the big question, the one that kicks this whole thing off. Could there actually be a hidden code, a single elegant pattern that connects something as vast as a galaxy, as mysterious as the ancient pyramids, and as intimate as our own consciousness? Well, that's the incredible quest this series sends us on. To really get our heads around this, we have to start at the beginning and learn its language. And believe it or not, it all starts with one single equation, an equation that sits right at the very heart of this entire system. So here's the radical idea. The theory suggests that pretty much everything can be understood through this one core formula for harmony. It's called the Atlas T equation, and it's our starting point for, well, for everything else. So let's break it down. T is what we're aiming for. It stands for the constant of balance. But, and this is absolutely crucial, this is not about being perfectly still or frozen. Think of it as an active rhythmic equilibrium. You know, like a marathon runner who's found their perfect pace. They're not standing still, they're in a state of perfect, sustainable motion. That dynamic harmony, that is T. So how do we get to T? Well, the first piece of the puzzle is P, for proportion. This is all about the optimal design, the perfect structure of a system. For a runner, it's their ideal stride length, their posture, their biomechanics. The theory suggests there's always an ideal structure for balance, and it often links back to these beautiful fundamental patterns we see in nature, like the golden ratio. Next up, you've got Kaf, or Kappa. This represents phase. And if proportion is the structure, phase is the rhythm. It's the timing, the calibrated movement of the whole system. For that runner, it's their consistent, steady pacing that keeps them from burning out. For a planet, it's the stable orbit. It's the piece that keeps things balanced over time. And finally, that brings us to R, which stands for resonance. This is the good stuff. This is the powerful, stable energy that just emerges when you get that perfect proportion and that calibrated phase working together. It's the runner's flow state, right? When they can just keep going effortlessly because the whole system is self-sustaining. It's coherent. Okay, so that's the physics, but how does this apply to us, to our minds? Well, here's where it gets really interesting. The theory proposes that our consciousness actually uses a kind of geometric language. It says we use these 4 primitives to build our thoughts. So the sharp focus of a triangle is mapped to decision-making. The inclusive, connecting nature of a circle is linked to empathy. The solid, stable foundation of a square represents safety. And the beautiful, evolving spiral, that's our capacity for learning and growth. It's like a whole new vocabulary for our inner world. So we have the code, right? We have the math of Atlas T and this geometry of the mind. Now let's look at where the theory says this pattern is hiding. Right there in plain sight, across history, in nature, and yeah, even inside our own skulls. The theory makes a bold claim that ancient cultures didn't just understand these variables, they literally built them into stone. It connects them to 3 master architectural forms. You have the pyramid, with its sharp, focused ascent. That's seen as the physical embodiment of proportion, or P. Then you have the ziggurat, with its rhythmic, stepped levels. That represents phase, or kappa. And finally, the dome, with its perfect, enclosing shape and acoustic harmony. That is the ultimate expression of resonance, or R. But it goes even deeper. The theory claims these amazing sites weren't just placed randomly on the globe. It argues that if you look at their specific latitudes, the ziggurat of Ur, the Great Pyramid of Giza, Borobudur, they show this incredible mathematical relationship to universal constants. We're talking the golden ratio, pi, the square root of 2. It's as if they were deliberately placed to be in conversation with the cosmos itself. And geographically, it gets even more specific. The theory suggests that these ancient marvels all cluster within what it calls a resonant light zone, this specific band around the Earth, between 30 degrees north and 10 degrees south. The claim is that this corridor is a kind of natural, harmonic sweet spot for civilization to thrive, with just the right mix of solar energy and atmospheric stability. So, from these massive ancient structures, let's bring it all the way back home, into the architecture of our own minds. The theory maps this exact same principle of balance onto modern neuroscience. It suggests that true mental coherence, that T state we talked about, is what happens when our wandering mind, the default mode network, and our focused mind, the task positive network, finally start working in harmony instead of constantly fighting each other for control. Okay, so if this code really does exist in ancient buildings and in our own brains, the next big question is, so what? Can we actually use it? Well, this final part of the theory is all about that. It's a blueprint for how this ancient code could be applied to design a more balanced future for all of us. And this is where things get really futuristic. The theory proposes something called the digital harmonic world engine. Now think of it like a digital twin of planet Earth. It's a proposed computational model that would use that ATLST equation to simulate everything from our energy grids to our social systems, all in an effort to find pathways that lead us toward global resonance instead of instability. So what would a world designed with this tool actually look like? Well, the vision is for what the theory calls harmonic cities, and the contrast with our cities today is pretty stark. Instead of being defined by extraction, competition, noise, and just endless congestion, these new cities would be designed from the ground up for resonance, coherence, rhythm, and flow. And we're not talking about vague ideals here. The blueprint has specific, pretty radical rules. Imagine buildings positions using the golden ratio for better light and comfort, transit systems that move in flowing circular loops instead of jamming up in gridlock. It even proposes new laws, like one that says, for every square foot you build, you have to create a square foot of living green surface. And get this, no corporate chains, only independent artisans and growers to build real community. But, and this is probably the most important part, there's a crucial ethical line here. This whole vision is about evolution, not revolution. The quote on screen says it all. Harmony can't be enforced. It has to be chosen. The idea is that these resonant environments would be an invitation for us to evolve, not some top-down mandate. And all of that leaves us right here, with this one final massive question. The Atlas Codex lays out this incredibly detailed, almost breathtakingly systematic vision for a world built on a formula for balance. But it also forces us to ask, can we really engineer harmony? Or is true balance something that will always be beyond measure? Something to think about.